Good day, my fellow Americans and good people of the world. Today, I would like to address you in regards to the 2024 election. The results are in, and we have a new president. It appears that Donald Trump will be back in the White House again. This is obviously not the outcome that many people wanted. It is definitely not the outcome that I wanted. And I do believe that it is not in the best interest of America for Donald Trump to be president again, because it is my sincere belief that he does not have the best interest of America at heart, nor do I believe anyone within his cohort have the best interest of America at heart. I would like to congratulate Kamala Harris on a successful attempt to bring forth a new way forward for America. In the sense of success, while she didn't win the election, she succeeded at providing Americans a different perspective in terms of where we stand and what choice we were making, and helped to remind the many Americans who did not want Donald Trump to be president that they still have hope in America. And while Kamala didn't win, I believe that her campaign was an honorable one. She proved that a candidate could have integrity and intention and the best interest of America at heart, and for many people to support her. And the thing of it is that it really proves that America's three branch system really is not able to sustain integrity for the American identity. We now have a House, a Senate, and an executive branch, as well as the Supreme Court, that are all skewed in favor of the Republican Party. And that means that there are a significant amount of Americans that no longer have representation. And so this just further goes to show that America really needs to have a fourth branch of government. Not just to have the executive and the judicial and the legislative, but we also need to have a civics branch of government where the people themselves actually take back the power that representational government has been slowly eroding away and taking away from them over the years. We need to be able to know that we have a place and that our voices will be heard. We have a way to dissent, and that we are actually being represented in government. And as it stands from this election, there are entire whole populations of people in America that no longer have representation in Americans' government. If we had a civics branch of government, a fourth branch of government that is a government of the people, then everyone would still have a seat at the table. Everyone would still have a voice in how we're to be governed. And that's really the only way forward for us to have integrity in our government system. And so I will continue to champion the concept of establishing a fourth branch of government, because that is the best chances for America to sustain its existence. Now, I'm not exactly sure at this point where we stand in terms of what Trump is actually going to follow through on, in terms of what he posed as his potential platforms and policy stances, and in terms of his rhetoric, how far he's going to actually push that into becoming the forced narrative in America. What I do know is that there are many Americans who are disappointed, and I know for myself that I very much feel pity and disappointment in America right now. But I don't see this as a position without hope, because there are still many good people of the world, and many of my fellow Americans who are not okay with this outcome. And so now it is upon ourselves to take on the responsibility to make sure that, regardless of what forces may be at play in the existing structure of the government and who holds power and control of those systems, we have to really work hard to take back our power in terms of the people having power. Because our Constitution lays it out very plainly and clearly that the ultimate power rests with the people, and that it's only those powers that are, intentionally set for the executive branch and intentionally set for legislative branch and intentionally set for, the federal level and intentionally set for the state level and the local level. All other laws and powers reside with the people, because the whole ultimate point of this is that we are supposed to be independent, free and independent people. And self-governance was the ultimate objective, that the government didn't have to interfere with your life, but only just be a systematic mechanization by which they can intervene on our behalf when things became untenable in regards to our capacity to coexist with one another. And the government lost, track of the whole, point of the exercise. And our system has been hijacked by some, powerful people with nefarious intent who have sought to, accumulate more power and to concentrate that power and to, reduce the size of government so that the power is concentrated into the hands of the few and that they dictate the outcomes of the many. And so they have literally taken away the power of the people. And so America needs to be encouraged to take that power back and to seek out to have a fourth branch of government in terms of the civics branch, which is the people of independence, the people themselves, to make sure that they can say, no, I'm sorry, executive doesn't have that power. No, I'm sorry, the legislative branch doesn't have that power, and the Supreme Court doesn't have that power, because we ourselves declare that we have that power. And for me, the idea is that really what this is emphasizing is that we need to be able to establish a insulary protective mechanism, which was the whole reason why we had separation of powers, but an insulary protective mechanism of personal dominion for individual people. So the people of America need to be able to be protected against the government infringing upon their lives, reducing their liberties, limiting their rights, limiting their freedoms, limiting their choices and their options. The government, that's not their proper intended use. That's not what government's there for. Again, it's just supposed to be that they, when and where and how must they intervene on our behalf so that we can continue to remain a cohesive unit as one nation, one people. And because the people who have had long-standing power lost sight of that, and then the American people just kind of forgot that they're the ones ultimately in charge here. And that it's not just about you're in charge of, voting and then that determines, who's going to control you. But rather you are actually the one who gets to determine what America stands for and what exactly the kind of government we won't stand for. And I think that a lot of the Trumpianism that is this mentality that is kind of like infiltrated the American identity and kind of like overtaken it, almost kind of like you know, Americans are like the host of this you know, external thing that is imposing itself upon them and impressing upon them you know, what to do, what to think, and what to feel. This whole notion is coming from a place of the fact that people have forgotten that what it means to be an integrity bound nation, having the power within ourselves to self-determine, to self sustain, and to be self-reliant. And the fact that we had a system where we kind of got too big in terms of government power, government infiltrated our lives too much, imposed too much on our lives, and then government people were just like, well, we're just going to take this power from people. We're going to put ourselves in positions of power and say it is our right to take away your right in this regard. And they don't have that power really unless we abdicate that power. And that's the problem, is that Americans have been long convinced to abdicate their power. I don't see Trump having won the election to be a sign that this is what America wanted, or that this is the best interest of America, or that this is even a good thing. To me, it really just illuminates the position that we're in terms of what happens when somebody fears you into conformity and into compliance, and makes you think that if you don't align yourself with this person who is dominating and threatening and fear-mongering you, that you will be on the other side of it, and then you would be attacked. So it's like the whole thing that Trump has emphasized is either you're with us or you're against us. And those who are close in proximity to his concentrated pockets of thriving, the closer you get, the more power is concentrated. But there are people that are in, you know, the fringe that are still aligned with him and will do his bidding, just as what happened with January 6th. Were very easily incited into riot, and then they did an insurrection on our Capitol, simply by the words of Trump, that led them to believe that they had to do bad things and take action in a you know, fight way, in order to appease his demands. And if they didn't, then they're on, you know, it's the us versus them thing. You're on the other side. And instead of looking at those people as, you know, fellow Americans and, you know, members of the government that should have had some sense of like respect for the sanctity of, you know, the entire institution, these people went to go do, you know, what they were convinced that Donald Trump wanted was for them to go fight like hell, to save democracy, because you're not going to have a country anymore. He convinced these people that they were afraid that if they didn't do this thing, that everything that, you know, was what they've known and what they've understood was going to be taken away. But there was nothing to suggest that was actually going to happen other than Trump implying that it would happen. And so again, that was like fear mongering. And so the people who think if we just stick close to him, then we're not going to be in his line of sight in terms of like being the person he's going to point fingers at and attack, you know. it's kind of like the same thing that happened with Mike Pence. He was like, Mike Pence, I hope he does the right thing, because if he doesn't, and then he said, well, he didn't do the right thing, guys, and so now he's an a them instead of an us, and people immediately turned on him, and then his life was immediately in danger. And the people who Trump had no intentions of controlling, no desire, no want, no need to control, took things into their own hands and, left to their own intentions, they thought they were doing the right thing because they were convinced by the person who they entrusted, who they believed in, who they had chosen as their leader, who they were following. They believed in his rhetoric and what he was saying. And so they did what they thought. They were convinced by his language and his words, his chosen words, that that was what was the right thing to do. And so, and then he's continued that rhetoric of an us versus them, and then, pointing to the people who, these people aren't a part of it, so you don't have to listen to what they say, you don't have to follow their rules, you don't, voting for them is a vote against, your best interest, because I'm the one that's going to fix it, I'm the one that's going to protect you, and I'm the only one that can, because they're the bad guys and I'm the good guy, despite the fact that he was the only one that has proven himself a man without integrity, a man without decency, a man without dignity, and one who is willing to play to a base of people who have been convinced that integrity and decency and dignity are not virtues and that are not valuable. Rather, instead, your capacity to be cruel and mean and demeaning and trolling and violent and make a mockery out of other people, like, those are the things that Trump values. And so he has modeled and normalized for people a sense that behaving that way towards others is a good thing. It's a fun thing to do, it's a good thing to do, it's a thing that will get you more likes on social media, it's going to give you more power, more influence, it'll help make you more money. A lot of people made money off of the Trump brand of, Trump hats and, Trump flags and Trump Bibles and all of these things. So he has given people a way of being that is wholly dependent on him. People have literally abdicated their own personal power, their own personal dominion, their own personal sovereignty. They have sold out the capacity for them to take self-responsibility for their own internal alignments with their soul print values, and they literally sold their soul to be accepted by Trump. And many people have done it out of fear, because it's you're either with us or against us. And in the survival mechanism in people's minds, the fight, flight, or freeze kicked in, and many people chose to just freeze up and submit and succumb to his will. And other people were just like, the closer you get to power, you kind of get a little bit of that power yourself. You're like, I know I'm not the biggest fish in the sea, but if I float next to the bigger fish, then I'm going to be able to get, catch a little bit of the power from them, sort of thing. And so that's why you see all these people concentrating and going towards him, because their desire to be where the power is, so they can plug in and tap in and get a little bit for themselves, get their own, this sense of self-centeredness and self-servedness makes them be willing to compromise on the fact that, well, I'm not the one with ultimate power, but if I give this guy power, then I'll be able to keep a little bit for my own. And all together, we'll have enough power to be able to disempower other people that we can then exploit to our personal advantage. And that somehow has been justified as okay. And that is who Trump is as a person. When you look at the actions that he's taken in his life, his way of being, how he propagates his brand, has always been about pitting people against sides, finding the opportunities to exploit people and narrowing in, zoning in, and focusing on those who he can exploit, and then going after them. And he has the proclivity, he has the, tendency to prey on innocence and to exploit it. And this is where a lot of the most vulnerable people in society have found themselves willing to, give what little power they have away to him in hopes that he will become their protector, because he's convinced them that the world is a dangerous place. And not necessarily because there's, something dangerous out there, but he himself is so dangerous that if you stand against him, he will do harm to you intentionally. And so it's really, this election has not, instilled any confidence in myself that America's leading itself in the right direction. Know that we have taken many steps in the wrong direction, and the continuum that we're on is going to have a lot of negative outcome consequences, and there is going to be a lot of unnecessary struggling and a lot of unnecessary suffering and a lot of unnecessary disintegration and a lot of unnecessary disempowerment. There's a lot of really bad things that are to come. And knowing that there are many good people of the world that will not stand for injustice to prevail. And so, but our struggle has now become, one that is going to be much more difficult now that the power has been concentrated into a specific group of people with a specific group mentality that are involved in a very specific type of groupthink. That if you don't align and attune yourself with that particular type of groupthink, then you are the enemy within. And you will be put in a position where you will have to fight to defend yourself. You will have to fight to protect yourself and your family and those who you love and care for. You're going to have a lot of sense of you don't know what to do. You don't know how to move forward. And we are now, many people who had hope that Harris would win have been placed in a position of real vulnerability. And they don't know what to do. And now they're even more vulnerable than they were before. And they have been weakened by this sense of, like goodness didn't prevail in this regard. But ultimately, the election itself, really it just shows the cowardness of Americans. It's not a sign of strength. It's not a sign of integrity. It's not a sign of good things to come. It is just proof that things have for so long been leading down a direction that is not in the best interest of America. We really need to get ourselves back into alignment. So this is a time for us to come together in a sense of a vision for the future that is to come, and start building new systems that make this old system that's useless and antiquated to no longer be relevant, to no longer have power, because we aren't involving ourselves in continuously giving our power away to it. Ultimately, even still, the power rests in the people. And it's, again, not just about a vote, but the power rests in how you choose to show up every day. What you're going to do in terms of your behavior and how you're going to, stand up for what's right. What are you going to stand for? And who are you going to stand beside? And who are you going to stand, in front of to protect from, somebody that might try to get at those people who may not be able to defend themselves. And it's not just in the sense of like being attacked, because we already know that's the Trumpianism way is to attack people and to delegitimize people and to try to make it seem like they don't have authority, or that they are the ones who are wrong, we're the ones that are right, sort of thing. That's very much in terms of like what Trump does and what he expects to have reflected back to him in the form of his followers. And if you don't do that, then he sees no value in you, and so he doesn't care about you. He's not intended to serve you, because everything he does is self-serving. So he will enable you, he will empower you, he will give, you a little bit of power, a little, incentive here and there, whatever, if it means that he can use you to the ends that will achieve what he ultimately wants. And then you look at, what does Trump ultimately want? Does he want to protect innocence? No, he wants to prey on it. Does he want to preserve American integrity? No, he doesn't. He wants to disintegrate the American identity and rebuild it up in his image. Does Trump want America to be true to its founding principles and to honor its word in the Constitution, the word of law? No, because Trump himself is a convicted felon. And one of the questions that was consistent that I heard on the campaign trail that interviewers consistently asked Kamala Harris, why do you think it is that Trump, is ahead? Why do you think it's so close? And she never had a consistent answer for it. She never really had the right answer for it. I don't think she really understood. But this was a product of intention that Trump had set forth to make it so that people felt they had no other choice. And that the alternative to his presidency was something so terrifying, so unfathomable, so not potential, that if you didn't vote for him, then you were not going to make it. His entire brand is about elitism. His entire brand is predicated off the notion that he is just this valuable thing. But when you listen to his rhetoric, which is mostly incoherent babble, but when you read between the lines of it, you can obviously tell that his intentions are not the best intentions for America. It's what he needs to say and what he knows he needs to say in order to get you to think, act, and be a certain way, to do certain things, that he can then kind of corner you into that and then force you into making a decision that may not be in your best interest, but it's certainly in his best interest, because he's calculated that. And not that he's some sort of like genius about this, but rather he has this natural instinct to get people to just do what he wants. He doesn't know the word no. And this is what an exploiter does. They are really good at finding your weaknesses and exploiting them. And sometimes it's not even really conscious that they're doing it. They just have an instinct for it. And to me, Trump has that instinct. It's like ingrained in him. And that's why he's really good at branding. It's because he has this instinct for cornering people and giving them no other choice but to comply. And for them to not be able to see anything other than him, because he's just so big, he's in the way. You can't see anything else. You can't see any other potential out there. You can't see any other vision. Which brings me to the point of the reason why Kamala didn't win, was because she was not a visionary candidate. She didn't have a vision for America. She had intentions, she had plans, she had strategies, she had a sense of purpose. And she was starting to come into her own in terms of her voice, that she was trying to, carry forward this message of, freedom and unity and liberty and all these things. And her performance was profoundly, like, liberating, in a sense of, like, we really can, we really can, together, and all of this. But the problem is that she failed to have vision to say, okay, this is where we're going, and this is why we're doing it. This is why we're here. This is, the purpose, the premise, the vision, the strategy, all of those things in alignment, and the policies matched the rhetoric, and that what she said was consistent with what's possible, given she understands what is possible in government. She's been in it for a while in various positions. And then the other shortcoming was that she didn't really fully consider what was possible with working with Trumpism. The not just MAGA, because MAGA to me is it's a symbol. It's not like a following, and it's very much like a cult, only because people are, so blinded to truth that all they see is through the perspective of MAGA. But it's the Trumpianism, which is like a way of being, a literal ontology that Trump and his followers and those in positions of power have learned how to skew in their favor, twist, fact, attack, and skew things into their favor. And playing on those notions of fear constantly, and not even giving people a vision, but like blinding them to truth and reality. And so because of that, people have been shut off. Their brains no longer function in terms of being able to see the potential in everything. And Kamala didn't have vision, so she wasn't able to project to people a sense of why they need to shake off, this wake up into reality, and out of this, it's like Trump has put people in this hex almost of their own little world that is all aligned with like doing his will and his bidding. And they have literally lost personal sovereignty and personal dominion and self-identity, and they think that they're making decisions on their own because, it's their decisions are in the immediate a yes and or a no sort of, thing. And so they feel like they have free will, but they don't, because they've abdicated to them the capacity for there to be variance in choice. Trump has limited your choice is either you're with me or against me, and so in the decision making, people, when left to their own intentions, they will do what they have been led to believe by either traditions or their religions or how they were grown up, or who they've placed trust in, will convince them that they are making a choice, when in reality they're just deciding whether or not they're going to align and attune with what they have been offered. And Trump is so in your business that you can't see anything past him, because he's just there in the way. He's constantly in every place, so there's nowhere to see beyond him. And so Kamala Harris fell short in answering that question as to why was the race so close. It was because Trump was so in everybody's face and in their space, and it was impossible to detach themselves from the reality, false reality that he created, where he's the center of everything and you just are in his fucking orbit. Excuse my language. But the only way that could have been broken was if Kamala Harris had a vision. And again, she was just not a visionary candidate. She's a good person with a good heart, and Tim Walz is a good man with a good heart. And I am so grateful for them to have been this shining beacon of light. And I pray they continue to be so, because we need more good people in the world. We need role models like them that show people that, like Kamala says, it's not about who you beat down, it's about who you lift up. So continue to lift people up, because this is the thing. It's a Maya Angelou quote. People will not remember what you said to them. People will not remember what you did to them. People will remember how you made them feel. And so when you think about that, and then you recognize the need for a vision for people to be able to see themselves in a proprio position from where they stand, see themselves involved with the prospects of a proposition that you are presenting to them. And they see within that a premise, a vision, a purpose, a strategy, and they are welcomed into it with invite, with no pretenses of, having to conform to, some rigid ideology or some, fixed personification, or, you have to be Trumpian and you have to wear the MAGA hat, or you don't get in the door sort of thing. The idea that none of those things apply. All that really matters is, like, can you see yourself in this process too, and becoming a part of that process, and like finding your own methods by which you can apply yourself to it in a way that really serves the best interest of all people involved. And can you be considerate of others? Take yourself out of the self-centeredness and that, like, it's me, and about my survival, because that's very much what Trump insisted on people. It's all about you, and your survival, and you're in danger, but you need me to protect you so that you don't have to do any thinking or any work. You just fall in line and everything's going to be just fine. That's what he convinced people to do. You need to have perspective. Like, let's take it back for a second and remove yourself from the Trumpianism that exists, and untie yourself from the chains that have bound you to needing to have allegiance to him, or allegiance to the certain type of ideology or certain policies that he's created or whatever. Remove those things and remove yourself from that situation, and really just cast your net really wide in terms of, what do you want to get back out of this? And Trump doesn't have anything that you get out of it, out of the deal. It's a very one-sided type relationship. It's echoed in his rhetoric of America first, like, where he literally thinks that it's in the best interest of America for isolationism rather than collectivism, where we see ourselves as being a part of a larger entity, that together we self-determine how things are going to play out, and how we choose to involve ourselves with that is how things are going to play out. And my concern is that there are going to be many people that are going to begin to see the outcome consequences of their decision of voting for Trump, that are going to lead things out of their favor. And there's going to be nobody in the Trump cohort there to save them, or to help them, or to be there for them. There's going to be a lot of people that thought they were in the in-group with Trump, but then come to realize that that in-group is actually really, really small. It's a very small, isolated pocket of thriving. And not a lot of people are in that. And those people who are going to now be left to the wayside, some people are going to be able to just carry on with their lives, and it's like they're going to think, oh, it's just the normal struggle of life or whatever, and they're just going to accept their fate. And they're going to be convinced, because that's what Trump did, is like, oh, you're way better off because you were way worse off before, right? And then people will forget, and because it just becomes a part of their daily conditioning. It's like, just this this is my lot in life. It's not a lot, but it's my life. And they're convinced that that's okay. And they will forgive him, or, give him leniency, or, give him exceptions, or be very apologetic for him when he does things that actually start to really intentionally harm people and lead to, negative outcome consequences that people in their individual lives are going to have to, play out and deal with and figure out. But Trump and his cohort aren't going to be there to save you or help you or protect you. The people who are going to be there are the good people of the world who genuinely care about good humanity and to bring out the good humanity that is in everybody as potential, and to help them to wake up to the reality of the potential that we have when we choose to bring out the best version in one another, that good humanity in one another, and be there for each other. And it was something that Kamala said, to see a neighbor in a stranger's face, to recognize they are your neighbor, and to, approach it in terms of the Good Samaritan. Like, to not think of what will happen to me if I help this person, which is what the priest and the Levite said when they saw the man on the road left for dead. They thought, what will happen to me if I help this person? And the Good Samaritan thought, what will happen to him if I don't help him? That's where the good people of the world, that's where their heart is. The attitude and the direction of their heart is always leading in that direction. It is unconditional love. It is not based off of who you are as a person, whether you deserve to be loved, respected, appreciated, cared for, but rather who they are, who you are as the decision maker as to whether or not you're going to show up for your fellow human. And Trump doesn't, he's so self-centered, he's lost sight of that actually being a thing. And I'm sure a lot of it is led by the fact that I'm sure he has not experienced a lot of love and compassion and sympathy in his life. All he's ever known is, controlling people. It's called control dramas. And he's created a control drama and forced everybody into it. And he is every aspect of it. He is an aggressor, he is an intimidator, and he is an inquisitor, and he is a poor me, and he is an aloof person. And he uses all those to his advantage, and I understand it's a survival mechanism because he has not had the love and care and sense of being protected by anyone, so it's a self-preservation mechanism, and it's what a lot of his cohort, what resonates with them, like they're not consciously aware of it, but that is what's resonating and what's being mirrored back. And why he is so attractive is because they see he's figured out how to game the system to help him to, do what he thinks is necessary in order for the world to be safe for him to be in. And that is to punish people and to control people. And so there's many other people who that resonates with them, punishment and control, because that was what they were taught, is punishment and control. And that's the only way in order to get energy from people that you need, because you have literally been cut off from the source of true energy in the world, which is just alignment and attunement with the, energy matrix of the world, of the universe, which is, what we call, when you're talking mostly in like business, or, influencers talk about all the time, being in the flow state or whatever, like that sense of flow, like everything's aligning for you and you're just really lucky or whatever. It's like, that's just being in align and attuned with the energy matrix of the world. And people like Trump don't know how to align with it, so they steal energy from other people. And they do that by punishing people and controlling them. and when he needs to, he's aloof, and it's like, he can't figure out what I'm doing. And so people are like, I don't know what to do. And so they give him power and energy in order to, like, kind of put that distance between them, that space between them. So they're like, separated from him enough that they feel like, okay, I got to keep an eye on this guy or whatever, but they're literally giving him his energy and he's taking it in that way. Or he's like, poor me, and, every grievance that he's had, as Kamala said, he just has all these grievances, and so he gets people to be like, oh, we have to stand up for him because he's being treated wrong or whatever, and you're giving him your power and your energy, and he's just sucking it all in. And he doesn't necessarily consciously know that he's doing it, being this little energy vampire, but he has the instinct for it again, and that's why he does the things that he does. But again, I have the fundamental belief that all people have good humanity in them. It just takes the right person to bring it out in them. It's something that it was a quote that I read once, and I love quotes because they're like little snippets of profundity, and I think they put everything into the proper, context of understanding. But this quote was, who in all of time has ever cared for and had sympathy for the devil? The one person who needed the compassion, the one person who needed the love, out of anybody that needed it or deserved it, it was the devil. And not because, because he deserved it, but rather because without it, he's incomplete and always searching for it. And because his mind has been askewed to think the only way to get it is to deceive, to be the great deceptor, then that's how he acts and how he behaves, and how everything he continues to do comes from that place of sensing the only way to get along in the universe is if you take away energy from people to fulfill the void and need within yourself because of the lack of nobody giving to you willingly the love, compassion, and understanding that you need. And Trump makes it very difficult to love him. He does, because the people who love him are more like idolizing him, but genuine, true, authentic love, what he really needs, people have a hard time giving that to him because the precept that he doesn't deserve it, like he's such a bad person, he doesn't deserve it. It's like we need to, in some cases, really truly consider that we have to have sympathy for the devil, and not calling him the devil, but saying, like, if we feel that he's the one that doesn't deserve the love, he's probably the one that needs it the most. And because he doesn't have that, he preys on innocence to extract that sense that he's getting it from people. And he's willing to, perform for people because that attention is people giving him energy and it fills him up. But it's one of the, I will put it exactly how John Oliver put it in terms of when he was referencing Elon Musk having, really this void within him. It's like a vacuum, soul-sucking vacuum within his soul that will never be filled. It's like this void. That's what Trump has too. It's probably why, Musk and Trump have so much in common with each other. And it is reflected on every person who aligns themselves with Trump has that same tendency in them. That is what Trump is reflecting to them, and they're seeing themselves as being, familiarity, and then they feed off of each other, and it becomes like an echo chamber, right? And so these are the people that really need the love the most. And so that was where the hard part for Harris really came in, was that, she couldn't give love unconditional, love to these people that were Trump loyalists, Trumpism loyalists, because of the fact that, she had to be the contender, the, person that was not him, and that she had to create such a contrast to not being him, and the alignment with him is not what's right. The alignment with this is what's right, and then try to just stand as that model of what is right, and stand by that, with the affirmative of this is what's right, and that you guys are on the wrong side of history. And while there is truth in that, it doesn't invite the truth of those people into the full meridian of reality, of the total truth. The total truth is the situation is that, we are in America where there is, this Trumpian mentality of these people that, are really have voids that need to be filled, and they don't know how to get that energy connection and alignment themselves. And so they seek it out in those people they see have concentrated pockets of thriving and power, and they just try to get close in proximity to it so they can just steal a little bit of energy from them. It's not fulfilling, and it's not rewarding, and it's kind of like, all that glitters is gold. And you can be the most rich person in the world, but, have absolutely no happiness because your soul is void of any really true purpose or meaning. You just throw yourself into, activities and whatnot, but you totally miss the point of the exercise, the purpose and the meaning of life. You don't understand. You lost the capacity to even seek the sight of what truly matters and align yourself with that. And so these people they have the instinct that they are searching for what matters, but they are being led to think that what matters is external things, money, power, influence, all those things that the Trump brand emulates, and they think that that's what matters, and it's not. It's like, what matters is the success of building something and standing back with pride and saying, I did that. That was me. That was my talents, that was my energies, that was my focus, my attention, and I made that happen. I made something out of nothing. And it was my human ingenuity that made that work. I mean, human ingenuity is an important unit metric. Energy unit is the core metric, but, human ingenuity is a valid metric by which we determine what is, the progress that's being made in our lives, our value, our intrinsic worth. And it's not based off of how much money you have, how much power or influence you have, but rather how much of what you do aligns with that flow state. You're connected with energy where you don't have to take it from other people by beating them down, but rather you're so full of it and you are constantly connected with that natural state that you have enough to share with other people. And so when you see that person on the side of the road, you can be the good Samaritan and lift them up. And because it's hard to visualize yourself in that position, and the world has really convinced us that it's a, dog eat dog, mighty crush the weak, free for all hellscape, which is very much on brand with what Trump is selling the world. That people have forgotten that there is a better way. And without the vision that can remind us that there is a better way, then people are very easily susceptible to being, drawn in their attention on the big thing that's in their face all the time, which is what Trump is really, really good at. So Kamala didn't necessarily lose the election, more that she didn't quite grasp the power in a position being the polar opposite of Trump. And she didn't have the capacity to have vision, and it's not because there's something wrong with her, because she's a good person. she's been in service to, this country in many different positions, and and the love of her family and the care and concern she has for people is obvious, and it's there, and it's apparent, and it's true, and it's real. But the American people didn't sense in what she was offering for it to be, the problem was that it was not general enough, that people could see themselves involved in it. It was just enough for people to be like, okay, well, that's better than Trump. And that's not really instilling a lot of confidence in people. And when left to their own decisions there in the voter's box, it was like, do I, give power to a person that has so much uncertainty, so much, I don't know what she means when she says that, her opportunity economy, and I get it, she's telling me she wants to do these specific things, but I don't necessarily see that working to my interest. And she is a part of the administration right now, and yeah, I've been convinced my life isn't so great because things are kind of a struggle right now. And so they relate all of these things into the negative, and Trump, amplifies that to make it seem like, yeah, you were better off 4 years ago. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. 4 years ago, we had an insurrection in our capital and nearly lost our entire democracy. But so the lack of capacity to be a visionary leader was really the downfall of her campaign. But everybody that championed behind her was really inspiring, and really made my heart smile, and I felt warmth, and I felt the radiance of good humanity just on every level. Every person that showed up for Kamala Harris, every person who stumped for her, every person who prepared speeches and spoke on her behalf, every person who answered phone calls, every person who knocked on doors. These are people with genuine good humanity in their hearts. And they were out there, doing all that they could to be able to make a difference. But it wasn't enough, because it wasn't enough to generalize and bring in everybody, including the, Trumpists, the, Trumpian loyalists, and to help them to see a better way. So my hope in all of this is that there's going to be there's going to be a reckoning coming, and it's going to be it's going to be a moment to mark and make a memory, make it whole. And it's this judgment. We need to determine this outcome of the election was a judgment, and it is now afforded to us a second chance. Not in terms of second chance for Trump to second term. That's not at all what I mean. Because, again, I'm going to make it very clear that Trump does not have the best interests of America at heart. And he is not a trustworthy person. And he is the leader of a continuum spectacle of negative consequences, and many people are going to unnecessarily suffer great harm, struggle unnecessarily, and many people who we love, respect, and appreciate are going to be targeted in ways that are going to disenfranchise them, remove their personal sovereignty, deny them personal dominion. And while, if you're a part of what Trump wants to project is, Christian white nationalism, if you're a white person and you're Christian and you believe only in a family unit existing as a mother and a father, and then the mother's job is to have children and stay at home. These sorts of things are literally what he lives. That's who he is. That's what he lives by, and that's what he promotes. And not to say that it's integrity, because he obviously does not know anything about fidelity or loyalty, especially in his marriage. But that's what he lives by, and because of that impression that he makes on people makes people think that that's the way it should be too. And so if you don't align with that, their version of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a person, what it means to be an American, if you don't align with that, then you're of no use to them but to further victimize, exploit, or demonize and turn into an enemy and attack, to the point where the only thing that's going to be left is them. It's kind of interesting, I know that some parts of Trump's rhetoric over the years has, talked about, immigrants are coming in and tainting our blood, which is a very, Hitler-ish type thing to say. But so what he's suggesting is that, we need to only have certain types of people in America. Only certain models are going to fit. And anybody that doesn't align with that is outside of it, and easily identified, because it's all these racist ways of looking at people and identifying them and singling them out and categorizing them and keeping those categories so they can take away your power, these sorts of things. And so and part of his other rhetoric was like to suggest that Muslims wanted to take over the world and to come in and make everybody like them, and they were just eventually going to overcome the bloodlines, and then that's all it was going to remain. It's like, it's not the plot storyline of what Muslims are doing. That is literally a plot storyline of white nationalists. So and Trump is in a line with those types of people, and that because that's the life that he lives, that's who he is, and that's his people. And so where we're at, yesterday being a day of judgment, determining that where we are and when we are in terms of who we are and what is to come. And we are left still with options and choices. And while the decision has been made in terms of who is president isn't who we are as individual, independent people. Who is president doesn't determine who you are. Who is president doesn't even determine who America is. We the people determine what America is. So we still have a lot of power. And if we can come together to take back our power and enshrine that into the Constitution by creating a new amendment to the Constitution that gives us a fourth branch of government in the form of civics, which gives power to the people of independence, and really represent that, then we have a way to steer the course of the nation in a direction that works for the best interest of all people involved. And is not just because you can't hijack civics. You can't hijack the whole nation. This is proven why so many millions of people voted for Kamala Harris and not Trump. Because you can't control all the people, though Trump is trying. And his cohort very much want to do that by using the powers instilled in and that they have taken and they have, put into the books for so long to skew it so that they have concentrated power into the hands of a few so they can control the masses. Even still, the people have individual power right now. It hasn't been taken away yet, so we need to continuously reassert that power and reassert that distinguishment of your own independence. We need to empower people to give them a seat at the table in the form of a civics branch of government. But we also need to start not looking to the government for answers or solutions or direction or guidance, because right now those in government that are in the majority cannot be trusted to be serving all Americans. Their interest is to make all Americans conform to Trumpianism. And if you don't align with that, then you're the enemy. You're on the other side. You're the other, you know. And so you can't look to them to solve any of the, everyday kitchen table issues that people have. It's going to be up to the people, the good humanity, the good people of the world, to start initiating organization and economics and alternative, institutions that can concentrate coalitions and cooperation that can help to solve for these things that Trump will not solve, because it's not even on his radar of concern. He's very much focused on making America in his image, and so he's actually in a position of distracting himself doing that. And while he's doing that, we really need to take back our power to self-determine and to establish the capacity for people to be self-reliant, self-sufficient, self-sustaining, free, and independent people, so that we don't have to worry about the government having the capacity to dictate our lives, tell us what to do, what to think, what to feel, and then to reject us from the capacity of being able to form coalitions and organizations to help to support one another so that nobody gets left behind. The government will try to say that they have the power to stop us from organizing, but they can't prevent us from, making the decisions in our everyday lives to step up and be there for people. And we need to take it upon ourselves. It's our responsibility. We need to take on to be there, to be good humanity, and to embody that, and to mobilize that. We need to make a systematic approach that's malleable, adaptable, mobile, and efficient to empower people to be self-reliant, self-determined, self-sufficient, self-sustained, self-governed. So, the government system is not necessary, we really need to focus on, I pray for the American people to forgive Trump for his incapacities and his personal limitations and his weaknesses. And I hope that the American people will also forgive Joe Biden for the same, and Kamala Harris for the same. This is nobody's fault why this happened. This is really just it is what it is. It's the way that it is because of the past and prior choices and decisions we've made that have brought us here. And now we really have to accept that, given this is the situation, we have to be more intelligent about our approach to things. We can't just leave it to voting. We have to take back power more than that. We have to be able to self-determine. And we need to create the safe space for us to do that. And we need to take our power and determine that this is our power. We have the right to do this. We have the capacity to do this. Let's put our human ingenuity to work to make that happen, And so I know that there's a lot of people who are fearful right now. I've had many conversations with people who I love, respect, appreciate, and care for deeply, who are very much concerned about the outcome of the election. And my heart speaks for them a sense of, I feel responsible to protect innocence, and I see that their innocence is now in a precarious position where it's likely to be exploited given what Trump says that he is intending to do, what his intentions are. And so I feel like this need, like I feel compelled, my heart is singing myself into this place, this time, this the encounters and the experiences and the engagements that have led me up to this very moment are all singing my heart song to say that what I have felt for a very long time, it really is truly my calling and my place and my purpose. I believe myself to be worthy to become a leader of the free world. And let me define what that means to me. The free world literally is where people's personhood and personal dominion is their insulary protection against outside forces preying upon their weaknesses and exploiting them. It's about protecting innocence, and not just innocence in the sense of little young children, absolutely, yes, them, but the innocence of each and every one of us to not be violated by people who would take advantage of what they see as an opportunity to use you to their personal benefit. And I want to protect innocence as a natural instinct within myself. But I also want to, inspire people to not just accept fate for what it appears to be, but rather to see the potential that I can see in everything of what is to come. Like every day is a step in a new direction, and we can diverge from the negative outcome consequences of the Trumpian continuum and lead ourselves in another direction. Just because he is president doesn't mean that he is, all powerful, almighty, the one dictator to rule them all sort of thing. As long as we continue to reaffirm our power and our capacity to behave and act and to think and do and be who we want to be based off of our own terms, and not allow anybody to try to tell us who we are or what we need to be about or where we must assert our loyalties or get in a line and attunement with, determining for ourselves based off of what we feel in our heart is right, and to really make that be a place of love. Because the fact is that if it's not of love, it's not truth. It's not true. It's not real. It is an illusion. And anybody who tries to sell you on the idea that you feeling bad is what is real has you in a control drama, and it's not real. It is like being caught up in a hex. They have you conformed into this little thing, and they have made you feel powerless, but you are very powerful. You have everything within yourself. You just have to find the way to apply it, and then you need to find like-minded individuals where you can come together, because in coalition building and collaboration, in self-development, personal development, and those who are doing the same thing coming together, it's a mutuality for mutual interests, mutual benefits, mutual securities, mutual respects, all of those things. That's how you establish truth within yourself and among others. And then you start building upon that truth with what resonates with your heart. Is like, this is actually what feels good. If it feels good, that's what's right. And not good in a sense of like getting high on, this sense of a gotcha moment with people, or, I really trolled that person, showed them who's boss, whatever, or I was able to bully this person and beat them down, and I feel good about that. That is like a temporary emotion. It's not a lasting sense of feeling, connected to what's right, reasonable, just, fair. So the whole idea is like, if it doesn't feel right, keep on going and move into a space where it does start to feel right. Don't like wallow in the moment, and don't, give away your power to somebody else because they've convinced you that you're powerless. Really just accept that I'm feeling this is a temporary state, and that it will move as I make new choices and move in the direction of choices that are leading me towards what actually does feel right for me. And that's where we need to start becoming as a nation. Don't put all your hopes and dreams and wants and fears into an election and think that that's the end all be all, because it's not. It definitely does put us in a bit of a pickle, and we're gonna have to find a way to work with what we got and accept the fact that there are now many more forces beyond our control that are working against us and not in our best interest. And we're going to have to be really intentional about directing our energies towards making that system obsolete, and, bringing it to people's attention how useless and antiquated it is to be a part of something that would try to pull us apart. Because that's definitely what Trump has been really good at doing. Again, because he needs us to be separated so that we feel that we need him, and then we give our power to him, and then he feels good about himself. Because there's nothing else that fills that void within him. That what he learned over time, because he didn't have somebody to like really truly love him. And I'm not saying that Melania doesn't love him, his wife. I really do believe that there's love in that relationship, but I think it's a codependency love. I don't think it comes from a place of truth and honesty and trust. But I'm not to say that that's a bad thing, because many people build relationships off of that. But what I'm saying is, relationships that are built off of that are not equal, and the power dynamics in that are skewed out of the favor of one, and then that person basically just latches on to the other and sucks them for energy, and then it becomes this fight of energy between the two of them, because two people that are in that type of relationship dynamic, because one has to assert and one has to have control, and the other one's trying to just like not be controlled, and then it just becomes this fight of this energy that goes back and forth, and it cuts them off from source, because they're not in alignment and attunement with the best interest of their heart and following their heart song, because they are too busy infighting with one another. And that's exactly what Trump is modeling that we should be doing as Americans with one another. That's why we are where we are. And it's not that I haven't been a part of it too. Very much so. I am so not for Trump and his cohort. And I feel so much pity and disappointment. I mean, I feel pity and disappointment for all America right now. But I feel so much pity and disappointment for him and his cohort, the people who, have become part of his insulated pocket of thriving. Those people who have become his enablers. Because I've seen a lot of people who I thought were really good men, people who I thought had integrity, to sell that out in order to be close to him, or in order for him to tell them that, oh, I'll give you this powerful position, or, we'll give you this, incentive that is so alluring because, I know how to buy you. Just dangle enough of a carrot in front of certain people and they'll do anything. And it's because those people really lack a deep, firm, rooted understanding of who they are as a